Okay, welcome everybody. Tonight we are talking about presenting. We're going to go over the prioritizing names list that you guys have done so far, and then we're going to go through on page 2 of the launch guide. We're going to be talking about presenting. Okay, great question, Elizabeth. I'll get back to you on that. All right, I'm going to pull up the launch, show you guys the launch guide so you can see we're all looking at the same page. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and ladies, here we go. So this is our launch guide. Well, maybe. All right, I'm just going to have to tell you page numbers because it's not wanting to cooperate with me for now. All right, so we're going through presenting. Now, is there anybody on the class who has not taught? Yes, 1 or 2 of you who have not taught your own class, maybe 3. So we're just going to go through the basics of presenting. And I'll start with telling you the worst way you can do it, which is the way I did my first class. But everybody, we're going to stop the phone for just a minute. Logan Campbell, you better put yourself on a video. And we have major congratulations to give to Mrs. Campbell, who just hit silver on Saturday for the first time. Yes, super exciting. Also super exciting to Elizabeth and Teresa and Jenny, who all hit elite well before the end of the month. I am so daggone. They pulled together like a team. I cannot even tell you. It was amazing to watch, just from the outskirts and some from the inskirts, to see how everybody pulled together. And I mean, you guys, it was a team effort. Amazing. I loved watching that. So big congrats to the 3 of you and to Logan for hitting silver. If I could give you a big squeeze in person, I would do that right now. So there are more celebrations on the plans, but if you're on that team, you'll hear more about that soon. So super big congrats to Logan and to Elizabeth and Jenny and Teresa. So back to presenting. So here is how not to do a presentation. And that is to get in front of everybody and fire hose people with information, which is exactly how I did my first class, which was a couple of years ago. I loved oils. I was nuts about them. They had made such an impact in my life. I felt so empowered as a mom. I just thought everybody has got to have what I have because this is saving me so much money. And I know what to do at 3 o'clock in the morning now when my kids wake up or my tummy hurts or I can't go to sleep or all that kind of thing. So I got my sisters pulled a class together for me out of town. I showed a bunch of videos and I talked nonstop for an hour and 45 minutes with a 5-month-old, by the way. I don't think anybody on this call was at that first class, but I was nursing my baby while we were watching the videos because he was screaming his head off. And I just talked for an hour and 45 minutes. And at the end of the class, people could tell that I loved oils, and nobody signed up in the whole room because all they knew was that I was crazy about oils. And they learned some things, I'm sure, but I didn't necessarily help people feel empowered that they could use essential oils. So that is something that I have learned really the hard way. So I'm telling you that so that hopefully you don't have to do it the way that I did. So with a goal for presenting is to just drip information on people, not fire hose, because a water fountain gives you nourishment. A fire hose is damaging and will actually push you backwards. So how many times people say, well, that sounds awesome, but I don't know how to do that. That sounds really overwhelming. The best classes that I have done often are less than 30 minutes. because I'm just dripping little bits of information on people. The longer I teach, the less information I give, because your goal in a presentation is just to help somebody get started on the path. Your goal in a presentation is not for somebody to walk away and even necessarily know what to do when they get sick. The goal of a presentation for a first time that somebody's been there is for them to walk away and say, I would like to learn how to do this. That story sounded amazing. People want to walk away with inspiration and maybe a few practical ideas. So, when I do a presentation, I'll say at the beginning, I'd love to know, I'll tell people a little bit about me. And then I usually say, I'd love to know why you're here and how I can make this class helpful for you. Can we just go around and share your name and tell me one or two things, either that you would like to know about or that you have a question about for tonight? And I'll tailor the class for you. Really, all that means is that when I get to the section about how to use oils, I'm going to maybe tell some stories that apply to those questions. So if you turn to page 2 on your launch guide, we're looking at number 7. The 7 is your present, and we are looking to present to 30 plus people. This doesn't necessarily have to be at all in one setting, but from last week, our assignment was that you would go ahead and fill out your 4 classes and any one-on-ones for people who can't come to your 4 classes. So we're just going to do a little bit of review here. So when somebody says, hey, I want to go for doing this as a business, we're going to walk them through the build guide, going to help them figure out why they want to do it, whatever that reason may be. We're going to help them develop a names list. These are things that you're doing and that you're helping your team do. You and or the person you're mentoring, you're going to develop a names list. You're just going to dump out of your brain every name that comes to mind. Not going to filter any names, because as soon as you filter, you block the flow. I told this story when we were doing the names list, but for example, when I was doing my names list, I would just write the name down, even if I was for 100% sure they would never want to use oils, hear about them, or hear about the business. And so many times I'd write a name down, and just in writing that name down, I'd think of somebody else connected to that person who would be interested in natural solutions and who needed help that I could give them. So name list, I'm just dumping names out of my head. After I made the names list, then we're going to teach people how to prioritize your names. I'm going to look through that list and go, who in this group would be interested in learning about essential oils, or who needs natural solutions, who has health issues. I'm going to ask that question of every person on my names list and just make a little check mark. Then I'm going to go through that whole list and ask one question to every name. Are there anybody on this list who'd be interested in sharing oils? Go through the whole list, make a little check mark. Go through that list again. Is there anybody that I would love to build with, or who I think would do really well with this as a business? Go through, make a check mark. Once you have all your names prioritized, you have your classes scheduled. If you're ready to just rock and roll, I usually recommend scheduling 4 classes in a 1 to 2 week period and invite everybody you know to those 4 classes. Ask them which class they're coming to, invite them to bring guests. The illustration I gave last week, I think, was kind of like when you see a new restaurant coming to town. The sign is out front long before they've hired anybody, long before there's any food inside the restaurant. All they're doing is putting a sign in the yard saying, hey, Grab a Green, which is the restaurant I'm watching like a hawk near my house, is coming to town. And so you're just letting people know, so that when there is something inside the restaurant, there's a little mark in your friend's brain that says, I need some help. I'm going to call Anna because she posted something about essential oils I bet she knows. Or Erin, who's on this call, she and I had talked about oils several years ago, and it was probably like at least 1.5 years or 2 years later, she called me and said, hey, do you still do essential oils? Well, now she's a rock star builder and growing this great team in Greenville, North Carolina. But that seed didn't grow immediately. But when she was ready and when I was ready, we connected, and now she's rocking it. So we're just going to put a sign in the front door and let people know. If you were building a brick and mortar business, so let's say Beth was building a holistic healing center, and she's got inventory and she's got people that she's hired, and she's going to put balloons out front. There's nobody she's not going to invite to the opening of her business. She's just going to let people know, hey, I'm here. And if this is something you want, then you can walk in the front door. So prioritizing our names list, and then we're going to focus on inviting people, particularly who we would love to run with and build a business with. Keeping in mind that when you're building a business, it's not only about getting what you want, it's primarily about helping other people get what they want. So when I'm looking to build a business, I am thinking about Kimberly, who I know what her goals and some of her why is. So a big part of my business is helping Kimberly get what she wants. That is what makes me successful, is when she gets what she wants. When your focus is on that, it makes it a whole lot easier to build a business, because I'm focused on serving people and I'm focused on people seeing their dreams come to pass, and it's really exciting. Yes, Elizabeth, I agree. She's getting big. Kimberly, by the way, I'll just have to brag on her for half a second, brought her, I think at the time she was 5 months old, baby to convention last year. I was in the hotel room with her, and so I can vouch for the fact that they were amazing. And pretty much everybody who was there took turns holding the baby, and it was super fun having a baby at convention. That was one loved on little girl. So she's so cute, and I'm going to have to not look at you, Kimberly, because she's adorable. Okay, so now we've made our names list, we've prioritized them, we've focused on inviting builders to these launch classes that we're going to have. Keep in mind, they could be online classes, they could be in-person classes. Ideally, your first classes are going to be in person, just because it's a little bit easier to do in person when you're passing oils around and getting. I can speak from experience, at least this is my own personal experience. Yours may be very different, but doing an online class, it's helpful to have done it for real a number of times, so it's just a little bit easier, because it feels like you're pretty much talking in a mirror versus talking to people who are interacting with you and asking questions and that kind of thing. So, but that said, Logan actually did a stellar post on just using oils in a diffuser. And there was so much feedback. People had so many questions, made so many comments, and it was just a little Facebook Live blurb about, hey, this is how you use essential oils. And she got some great feedback from that. So when we're presenting, if you want to turn to page 12 in your launch guide, now you officially have lost all excuses, if you had any, or if any of you have ever said, I can't teach a class, I don't know ABC, XYZ, whatever. Here is the whole class in a script. You just read it. The only thing you need to do to teach a class is have a story. Facts give information, stories give inspiration, right? So I could tell Neil that lemon, lavender, and peppermint are, that lavender is a great antihistamine, that lemon is a strong antibacterial, peppermint increases circulation, and they're great for allergies. That's nice information. But if I tell Kristen while we're sitting at Blakeney having a play date, and I start sneezing my brains out, and I take some lemon, lavender, and peppermint and put them in a jar and swish and swallow them, and I start feeling better in 5 minutes. Or I tell her about an experience when that happened. That is inspiring to say, to watch somebody have results. So, or I'm sure I won't even tell it. So many of you have heard me tell a story about peppermint oil. It was my first experience with essential oils. And I was laying on the floor about to throw up 1 minute, and 5 minutes later, I felt fine and I got to sleep almost all night. So all you're going to do is read the script. If you don't know what to do, just read the script. You also can use the Natural Solutions class online, or you can use parts of it. So if you're brand new, you can just play the different pieces of it. If you're not feeling so great about closing right from the beginning, then you do the closing from the video. If you're not sure about how to explain loyalty rewards, then show that part on the video until you feel more comfortable with it. With presenting, so we are going to just read the script, right? Using the Natural Solutions class handout, which you can get on oillife.com, and which you will also get by participating in this class if you've come live and done the homework throughout the way. Now, one thing I want to talk about, and several of you, we've had this conversation before, but let's just talk about what your assumptions are when you teach a class. So my assumption, when I walk in the door, if my assumption is I feel nervous, I feel like I'm trying to sell something to people, and Elizabeth, I would love for you to comment on this because I feel like GoPro talks about this a lot. But I walk in, if you have something to comment, please just let me know or unmute yourself. If I walk into a class and I'm feeling anxious, not just about presenting, but feeling like I'm just selling stuff to people, almost everybody I meet says, oh, I'm not a good salesperson. Great. You'll do awesome in doTERRA if you stink at sales, because this is a business about serving people and supporting people's health goals. So that's fine. If you stink at sales, you're in the right place. I'm sure you've heard me say this, but I will never forget in May of 2013, I don't remember. I give up. Going to my first doTERRA corporate event in Washington, D.C., where Kimberly and I reconnected. And hearing David Sterling, who's the president of doTERRA, get up on the stage and say, if you are here in this company because you want to make a lot of money and that's your only goal, then you're probably in the wrong place. And you probably could have picked my jaw up off the floor from that moment. I had been in another direct sales company before, just kind of playing around with it. And I felt like there was a lot of rah, go win a car, whatever it is. I just had a bad taste in my mouth about direct sales, and that was my responsibility. But anyway, he got up there and said, but if you're here just to make a lot of money, it's probably the wrong spot. But if you're here because you care about people, you're willing to serve those that you know, you're willing to get an education, learn how to use oils, then this is going to be a great company for you. I knew I loved the products, and from that moment, I knew I loved the company. Every exposure I've had to the company has increased my Logan, awesome. I'm just going to read what Logan said for those of you who are watching this as a recording. Logan said, assumptions are huge. The past few classes I have been working on this and have assumed that people will want to get on the path of living with essential oils and will be ready to get started. And guess what? They all ended up buying kits, and 90% of it was because my attitude and confidence that they would want to use oils. Assume the best. Absolutely. So good, Logan. So if my assumption is people want help, they just need to know how, and I'm here to show them how. For one, that takes a load of pressure off of me, because all of a sudden I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm assuming that they are there because they want to be there. They're there because they have had issues. Kimberly and I were on a call today with somebody who's had all manner of health issues. And my assumption is she wants help. She just needs to know how and where to get started. Then that changes the whole energy, so to speak, of a room, of standing in the position of I'm here to help you versus I'm here to sell you something. It takes a load of pressure off of you. It takes a load of pressure off your guest and those who have come to hear. And it changes the direction of where you're going, because your end goal isn't to make $1 now. Your end goal is to help people. And when your end goal is to help people, the dollars just naturally follow, because in one way or the other. So that's great. So we're assuming the best. We're assuming that people just want to know how. They're not here because they're obligated or they're pressured or they feel guilty. They just need to know how. And that's huge. So one of the questions we've talked about starting with is when we give our introduction, you're just going to give a brief story. Remember that the goal of the class is we just want to drip information on people. We don't want to fire hose anybody. Fire hosing pushes people back. Dripping information makes people want more. So I'm just going to drip information. I'm going to tell them a little bit about me. Hey, my name's Mary Beth. This is my story. This is my goal for the class. This is my intention for the class. You can see this as in on page 12 where it says share your intention. Here it says our intention is to learn what essential oils are, how to use them, and the best way to get them into your home. As we go through the class, you will naturally think of others who need these natural solutions. Feel free to jot their names down so you can share what you've learned with them. If you can see yourself doing what I'm doing, talk to me after the class. Now, look at that. If you need to rewrite it in a way that feels natural for you, if there's some different words you might want to use, that's fine. It needs to feel honest for you. Your classes will change over time. So the class that I teach today is really different than the class I taught 3 years ago. But having phrases to use over and over again are so helpful, because then it just takes away your need to recreate the wheel every time. So, one of the phrases that I use are, I'm here to help you learn how to use essential oils to address your particular health concerns. This is what I've been with doTERRA for X amount of time. This is my story. This is how the class is going to go. I'm going to teach you about essential oils. At the end of the class, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You can say, Teresa and I did a class last night, and she can tell you this is exactly what I said. At the end of the class, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I'm going to ask you which oils you would like to get started with for your family. I'm going to ask you if you would be interested in sharing essential oils with others who need natural solutions. And I'm going to ask you if you'd be interested in hearing about the business of doTERRA. You can say whatever you want to me, as long as it's honest, and I will say, great, thank you so much, I'm glad you came, and I'll totally mean it. And then they know what's coming. They know that there's no pressure or obligation. They know that I want to help them. And then they're thinking throughout the class, hey, yeah, actually, my friend has got this really bad joint pain, or my daughter-in-law has this major health issue going on, or I know somebody who really needs some money. I actually, this past week or so, talked to somebody who's been using oils. She's been on my team for 3 years. And she has 2 jobs. She's a crazy oil user, but she's not interested in doing the business. And I just called her and I said, Kathy, I'm very aware that I have a measure of what I want in doTERRA. I have a full-time income. I love what I do. I have flexible hours. I work with people that I adore. Are there people that who need what I have? Because I'm at the point where I really am wanting to help other people get to where I am and to have a stable, increasing pipeline. Do you know people that I could help get that? And she's like, yeah, I know this person, and let me think about some other people. And so they might not be interested in doing it as a job, but they very well might know people who need what you have, not only in product, but also in business. So on page 12 again, when we talk about the history of essential oils, we're immediately going to start sharing them. This is a little bit different on an online class, and I'm going to ask Jenny to pop in a few minutes to talk about an online class. If you want to, Jenny, you don't have to, but if you want to, I'd love to hear your feedback. But for an online class, it'll be different. So I immediately start sharing essential oils, because the goal is for you to have an experience. The goal is for you to feel empowered. Wild orange is one of the best oils to start with. I heard a class on, I think, emotional healing at some point, and the gal teaching said, okay, I want you to think of something that makes you really mad, or something that makes you really sad, or just some negative emotion. And then I want you to take some deep breaths and focus on the wild orange, and I want you to tell me how mad or how sad you are on a 0 to 10 scale before and after breathing wild orange. And then maybe when you go over the aromatic section, then you just explain real briefly that essential oils are really helpful for emotional use because of the way that they interact with the part of your brain that stores emotions and memory. You can go into science of that if you want to, but the main thing is just to say essential oils can really help your mood and your emotions. So wild orange is a great one to start with. Probably I would not be starting with oregano, because oregano is a bitter herb. It's really strong. God forbid that it get on somebody's eye. Oregano is awesome. And when we're talking about plantar's warts and skin growths and skin tags and just immune issues. Man, I'm talking about oregano, but I'm not going to start with oregano. So I'm going to start with a happy oil because we all need to be happy. David Sterling told a story of a class that he actually taught for somebody else. In the beginning, the doTERRA owners, there are 7 of them, David Sterling, Dr. Hill, Emily Wright, several. There were actually originally only 4, but they were the ones that traveled all over the country teaching classes, sleeping in dumpy hotels and eating McDonald's and the whole 9 yards, just getting the message about essential oils out there. So David Sterling was sharing this story. He said he got a call from a lady in the business, and she said, hey, I'm supposed to teach a class, and it was somewhere on the West Coast, I don't remember. My plane's delayed, I just can't get there. I know you're already there. Would you consider teaching it for me? And he said he walked in, and it was in a hotel room, not a lobby, not a conference room, in a hotel. So bedroom. So all these Asian ladies are lined up expecting their friend to walk in the door, and in walks David Sterling instead to a hotel while all these ladies are just plopped on the hotel beds. And he said they all crossed their arms and they just glared at me. And they were not happy that I was there instead of their friend. And so the first thing I did is I took 10 bottles of wild orange. I passed them out to everybody in the room. I said, okay, let's just take some wild orange and start breathing this in. And he didn't even teach a thing until everybody had some wild orange in their system. And he said at the end, every single person signed up to get a kit with essential oils. So wild orange is an amazing tool when you're teaching a class. So we're just going to go through the history. If you are, hopefully you have your natural solutions. I took everything out of my bag today. Where did I put it? You have your, excuse me just a second, your natural solutions handout with you. That's the Live Guide. Okay, here we go. This is an old one. All right, so this is your natural solutions handout. Here's your little circles. Here we go. So why I go over the history, you can say what you want here. You can read it where it says, you know, what natural solutions has your family used in the past? Sometimes I say, you know, the point of this is just to say that essential oils are not the new kid on the block. Essential oils have been around since the beginning of time. People have been using essential oils to take care of their health from the beginning, whether it's taking frankincense and myrrh to the Christ child, using essential oils in World War II when pharmaceuticals were unavailable, up until present day. So essential oils are not the new kid on the block. I want you to know they've been around for a long time. It's not a fad. doTERRA, and then so doTERRA, taking what's been around forever, went about to set the gold standard in purity and potency of essential oils. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So that's really all I say for the history section. We're going to go over natural, safe, and effective. Real simple. Remember, we're just dripping information. We're telling stories because stories provide inspiration. While I'm doing this natural, safe, and effective, I'll pass out probably 1 oil for each section. So when I'm talking about natural and I've got my peppermint here, then I'm probably going to tell some story about peppermint. I'm going to talk about using peppermint when I had a headache. I'm going to talk about, I have a silly story about peppermint oil, so I usually tell that same silly story for upset tummies. I'm just going to tell a peppermint story. I'm going to talk about why they're effective, how they get inside of a cell, and they can help repair the cell from an inside out. Maybe I'll pass out some melaleuca, maybe I'll pass out some frankincense, whatever. I'm going to talk about safety. Now, Jenny has a great way she does this, and I've done this in the past too. She has a bottle of essential oil she bought on Amazon, and she'll talk about how, or she'll just pass it around. And so let's just talk about safety. Here's the peppermint oil from X company from Amazon. Here's peppermint oil from doTERRA. The one she passes around smells rancid. I mean, I can't even breathe it. It's disgusting. Maybe it's because I'm so used to doTERRA, but it smells bad. And everybody in the class knows that it's bad. And so then she just goes over CPTG, why doTERRA's trademark is certified pure therapeutic grade and what that means in English. In English, certified pure therapeutic grade means that my bottle of lemon is nothing added and nothing subtracted, but here's the important part. Not only is it nothing added and nothing subtracted, but the quality of this lemon is consistent from bottle to bottle. So this lemon has the highest therapeutic value because of indigenous sourcing, which means it comes from where it grows, where it's been growing the longest. The illustration I use the most is when I talk about lavender. I say, you know, lavender's been growing in France for thousands of years. So it has thrived there, and it has a really high therapeutic value there. Lavender that we grow in our backyard has maybe not adapted. There's a different to the area. Maybe there's a different pH of the soil. The altitude's different. If you want to get scientific on people, you can tell them that, actually, I'm not even going to get scientific on you right now. So you can tell them what you know. The best part about, I'm just going to take a little rabbit trail here, doTERRA, is that they are so focused on education. Anybody who's been to convention can tell you convention is not a rah, go make money. It's a rah, let's learn so you can help people. Let's talk about why essential oils can support your family in so many different ways. Let's talk about the chemical constituents of lavender and why the heck does that matter to you. So you just tell them what you know. You tell them what's meaningful to you. And what's meaningful to me versus what's meaningful to Elizabeth, we have different stories. Elizabeth and I have different backgrounds. The things that really grab my attention and my heart are not, and her heart are not the same. So I might talk about a little bit more science because I'm a science nut. Even though, well, that's another story. She might not be crazy about science. Maybe she is, I don't know. Her dad's a neurologist, so he's super smart. And she loves the medical part too, just as much as I do. But she's just going to talk about what matters to her because people are going to pick up on your passion. And if you're talking about, you know, lavender that comes from France has a higher ester quality than the lavender that comes from Utah. And ester is the part of lavender that makes it therapeutic, which means the lavender from doTERRA is going to be better than the lavender from another company because we have more ester. That's cool to me. That might sound like boring as snot to you. So if it's boring as snot to you, then don't say it, okay? Say something that's exciting to you, that matters. Why doTERRA matters to you. You're going to have your own story. So if you don't have your own story, borrow a story from somebody else until you do. The longer you use oils, the more stories you're going to have. So that's why we do stuff as a group. That's why going to events is so important because you hear other people's stories and you get inspiration. And I think the biggest part of events, going to events like this, like convention in September, our quarterly trainings, is the value of impartation. I'm going to leadership tomorrow morning. I have not packed. I'm going to be doing a laundry marathon. I'm not going to show you what my sofa looks like right now, but the clothes are higher than the top of the sofa. I'm going to be doing a laundry marathon, and I'm going to Florida in the morning. And honestly, there was a thought in my mind where I thought, I've got so much going on. My team's doing amazing. I don't need to take 3 days off and go to Florida and go to convention. I'm sure I'll hear about whatever the new products are. And that thought didn't land very long because I've been down this road before. But I know that when I go, I will get impartation that I cannot buy and that nobody can take notes for me for. I can come back and I'll give you all the information that I can, and I will transport all the impartation that I have. But to be able to see and absorb other people's stories, other people's experiences, you can't buy that with money. So anytime you can be around events, whether it's a small event in your own local town, whether it's a greater event with your team, whether it's a corporate event, those are so helpful. So that's a complete rabbit trail about presentations. So we're going to talk about natural, safe, and effective. We're going to talk about what's exciting to you. So you turn to page 13 in your launch guide and to this page right here in your Natural Solutions handout. Now on section 4 on page 13, it says application, and it just is going to explain aromatic, topical, internal use. Now this is where I'm going to tell stories that are applicable to the people in the room. So if Sandra is having a class and all her friends who are coming, who recently were at her retirement party, And they've all been teaching together for 20 years. Sandra is probably not going to talk about caring for newborns to her friends who've been teaching together for 20 years and their children are all grown up. Kristen is going to talk about how to take care of newborns because Kristen has been using oil since her son was 18 months old, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was only 1. I don't remember. Anyway, since he was a baby. Kimberly, she's going to talk about how to use oils for newborns based on the group of people that are there. So Teresa and I taught a class last night, and there was nobody with babies. So we talked about joint issues. We talked about how to go to sleep at night. We talked about exercise. We talked about cleanse and restore, that kind of thing. So all that you want to focus on in this section is telling stories that matter to the people who were there. So we're going to talk about aromatic use. When I talk about aromatic, all I'm going to say is aromatic is great for cleaning out the air. I'm going to talk about aromatic is great for emotional support. Aromatic is great for respiratory. Elaborate if you want to. Tell a story that matters on those 3 points. When I talk about topical, all I say is put the oil where the ouchie is. Now, I do say that even to grown-ups who don't have small children. That vernacular is just glued in my brain. Put the oil where the ouchie is. If the ouchie is your stomach doesn't feel good, put the oil on your stomach. If the ouchie is on your lungs and you can't breathe, put it on your lungs. Say it in a way that makes sense to you. And then I'll talk about internal and how you don't use oils internally that you get from just anywhere. And that's what sets doTERRA apart, is that you can use these oils medicinally. And I'll give some illustrations about using oils internally in a way that matters. All right, and then with this next bit, honestly, I used to blow through this section because I didn't quite know what to do with it. But for this whole big picture section, it just has a bunch of different pictures of essential oils and different products. I'm just going to highlight them. They're already written down. So I'll, breathe. An example of breathe is I'll use it this way or that way. An example. So my goal in going through these products, I can just read. You can just read. Okay, so here's a bottle of Deep Blue. Deep Blue is highlighted at the top, and it gives you some ways to use Deep Blue Rub. You can just read it, okay? You don't have to know a lot of stories. You can just read it. But you also, the goal of doing this part is just to give people a sample of, here's some ways the oils could impact you. Because a lot of people will come to a class and say, I need help with allergies. I need help with joint pain. I need help with, and they're single-minded focused on their one problem. I want you to walk away from your one problem focus and say, I can use essential oils all throughout my life. I can mark off. So I love lists. One of my favorite things is to cross things off my calendar that I did them. Like Dana said, action is everything. So when I've done action, I get such a kick out of saying I did this, I accomplished it, and I finished it. So I like to give people a list. I want them to walk away with a to-do list of their needs and how essential oils are going to cross things off their list with essential oils. Oh, I can clean my house for 25 cents a bottle. Elizabeth, oh, yes, absolutely. Elizabeth said that's a dopamine response. So Beth Wright. It says Elizabeth on your chat name. So Beth Wright is also a nurse and a science nerd. So there you go. So you can get a dopamine response from crossing things off your list. You also can increase your dopamine through the use of basil essential oil, just FYI. So I want you to be able to cross off your list all the things that you can use in your house, in your life, in your emotions, in your family, in your cooking, in your whatever with essential oils. So that's all my goal is when I'm going through this. I'm just dripping some information. This is what you can cross off. 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 That's all I'm going to do. Okay, now you can introduce the wellness pyramid. This is number 5. I love this wellness pyramid, and this is what it looks like right here. You're probably all familiar with the RDA, wellness or food pyramid. You should eat this many servings of grain, this many servings of dairy and meat. And I'm not even going to go into if we agree with that pyramid or not. I'm just going to tell you most people are familiar with it. I saw that smile, that's right. So people are familiar with the concept of a wellness pyramid. I love this wellness pyramid because at the foundation of being healthy is eating right. Exercising, rest and manage stress, reduce toxic load, informed self-care, and proactive medical care. One of the handouts they used to have, there was a line right here where it said traditional medicine is focused on informed self-care and proactive healthcare. doTERRA is focused on the whole puzzle, and we're going to provide support for you for every piece of this puzzle. So I really like that about the Wellness Pyramid. This is a great time to talk about the Lifelong Vitality supplements. I usually just try to give people at least a heads up that it exists, because even though they came to learn about essential oils, some people are like, well, they came to learn about essential oils. How do I talk about Lifelong Vitality? Well, Lifelong Vitality is one of the things that is actually doTERRA's #1 seller. Most people who take it report less anxious feelings, more energy, and almost everybody I know who takes it said, I don't need my cup of coffee in the afternoon. I don't get my chocolate craving in the afternoon. My energy level is more stable. Laura Wilson, I don't think she's on this call tonight, but she took it during pregnancy and had a huge difference from when she took it for her first child. So a lot of people take it when they're having babies. It's great. But they're like, how do I introduce Lifelong Vitality? Erin says, I'm on month 2 and it has been amazing. So that's the report that I hear from a lot of people. Whether they take a half dose or a full dose, that is how you introduce Lifelong Vitality, is through the Wellness Pyramid. It makes an easy transition, where otherwise sometimes it feels kind of, or at least for me in the past, it's felt choppy. Like, I'm talking about essential oils, now how do I transition into talking about supplements? This is how you transition into talking about supplements. So if moving on to point number 6 on page 13 of the launch guide, take a moment and jot down a few of your own health priorities. Now, if you've introduced the class by saying, hey, give me a few pointers of things that are on your radar, then you may or may not spend a lot of time here. But please just take a moment and jot down a few of your health priorities, and then we can reference this later to prioritize what kits you'd like to get or that kind of thing. Let's see. You can read through number 7. I don't want to spend too much time here because I want to finish up on time. And then we're going to talk about the close. There are 2 ways to get essential oils. You can get them retail and wholesale. I usually find that if people are going to use more than a few oils in a year, it's much cheaper for them to get wholesale. I just breeze right over retail. If people really just want to buy one oil, they can buy retail. You can order it off your LRP and sell it to them at retail. They can order it off your website retail, whatever floats your boat. But I usually just breeze right through it, because generally buying one bottle of essential oil is not going to change your life. Getting a lifestyle of essential oils, that will change your life. So I usually just breeze right over through retail, because who lets people buy retail? My mom has said to me before, if you want to know how to get something cheap or free, ask Greg or Mary Beth. My husband and I are crazy about finding cheap or free ways to do all the things that we love and want to do. So I'm going to talk about wholesale. To be quite honest, I'm not even going to tell people that they can get a membership and buy their 3 oils at wholesale. If they don't want a kit, then maybe I'll tell them that afterwards. But this is why. So this is my personal story. So and I feel conviction about it because this is my personal story. So when I bought essential oils for the first time, I called my friend Liz, who is a great doTERRA leader, and it's been very helpful for me. She told me about essential oils for a long time. She is the epitome of persistence, because she told me about essential oils for 6 months, and I pretty much said, Doc, don't talk to me. And finally, after 6 months, I called her and said, okay, I'll buy the membership and I want lavender and On Guard. And she said, okay, I can do that for you. This is how much it'll cost. Or they had a unique special that month where you could get a deal if you got a family physician kit. So she said, or you can get a kit. And I said, okay, fine, whatever, I'll get a kit. So I got my 10 oils. All I knew was that lavender could help you sleep and On Guard could help your immune system. If I had bought lavender and On Guard, I might not be in doTERRA today, because the oils that ended up making a difference to me, that turned my head towards natural solutions, that got my attention, were peppermint, oregano, and frankincense. With those 3 oils, because I had them in my cabinet, I was willing to try them, and I had profound results with those 3 oils. Frankincense wholesale is $69 a bottle, plus tax and shipping, probably close to $76. In the situation that we were in at the time, there was no way I would have been spending $75 on a bottle of oil. But because I had it, I was willing to try it, and it made a huge difference. So when I explain closing, we're going to talk a little bit about the kits here in a minute. But I usually tell people, I really encourage you to buy kits for several reasons. One, it's cheaper because it's the buy in bulk concept. You get more oils for less money than if you were to buy them all individually. I love to encourage people to get kits because it waives the membership fee. You don't have to pay the membership fee. The main reason I encourage people to get kits is because it really expedites your learning curve. This will make more of an impact quickly than if you just try one oil at a time. So if it's at all feasible for you to get a kit, I really encourage you to get a kit for that way. So we're going to go through the kits. Now I want to tell you something that a lot of people struggle with in the beginning. You look at the kits and you're like, oh, sticker shock. Nobody is going to want to spend $2,000 to buy essential oils. Nobody is going to want to. Okay, let me tell you what those things are, and they're called assumptions. Now, you know what assumptions mean. It makes it ASS out of you and me. Spell it out on a piece of paper. So that's a little crass way to say it, but assumption is, it's prejudging people, and it's not helping you or them. So I'm not going to assume anything about you or about what you want or about what you need. If somebody had made an assumption about me when they offered me essential oils, they would have said, that Carol can't afford jack squat. And Kimberly says, let them spend their own money. Yes, let people decide how they have to spend their own money. So if somebody had made an assumption about me, they would have assumed she can't afford anything. I'm just going to give her a few samples. But I'm very thankful that the person who signed me up did not make that assumption, and she allowed me to make my own decision, because the decision that I made has impacted my family for our health and our finances in a drastic way. And so I'm not going to assume anything about you. I'm just going to tell you, here's the options, and you can tell me what you want to know. Elizabeth, I meant to ask you to pop in on something. Did you have anything you wanted to share? Elizabeth Chen? Not yet? Okay. Well, if you change your mind, just unmute yourself.
About the GoPro stuff?
Yeah. In this particular example or situation.
Of kits?
About closing and just like what you assume about people.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know that GoPro talks about that as much, but there's a great video on Share Success that talks about how to do it.
Oh, really? Okay. Where is it in Share Success? I don't
know. I signed up to get emails for different parts of the Share Success program, and so it was in an email. I can forward it to you.
Okay, great. Or just post it on Essential Health.
Okay.
That'd be great if you have it.
Yeah,
okay,
I do.
So that's great. I appreciate that. Because I haven't seen that for a long time, but I remember it being there. Okay, so I'm just going to tell people what the options are. If you blow through every kit until you get to the kit that you feel the most comfortable with, people aren't ever going to sign up for the kits except for the ones that you feel comfortable with. So find a way to explain kits in a way that you feel comfortable with so that they can decide what they feel comfortable with. If I don't feel comfortable with somebody spending $2,500 on a diamond kit, then I'm not going to give people the option to do that. But they might be in a desperate situation and they might need to start a business. They might need to make drastic changes in their healthcare. They might have a tax refund, and they know that if they don't Get it with something that is important to them, that it'll just, you know how money is, if you don't tell your money what to do, sometimes it just goes floating all around. So you need to tell your money what to do. So sometimes I look at my budget and I say, this is what I want you to do. These are the priorities for me. So somebody might look at the Diamond Kit and say, I'm going to tell my money what to do. My money is going to help us get healthy this year, and I'm going all in. You're going to have a way to say it in your own way. It's going to be your own story, but find a way to feel comfortable with explaining the kit in a way that you give permission to people to make their own decision. Your pocketbook is not theirs. Absolutely. Great point, Logan. She says your pocketbook is not theirs. So what I couldn't do or wouldn't do or don't feel comfortable with is not going to be the same for everybody. So all that to say is find a way to explain it. One of the ways I explain the Every Oil Kit, and this is just an illustration. So my husband, when I met him, he joked a lot. Well, I'm not sure he was joking, but I informed him that he was joking. He would tell me all the time that he wanted to build a bunker and move into the bunker and have everything he needed in the bunker or whatever. And so I kind of teasingly say, okay, the Every Oil Kit is your bunker kit. It's the when I have got to be prepared for everything that comes my way, and I don't have time to mess around. I need to have it in my cabinet. That feels really comfortable for me. And then that gives people permission to buy what they need to buy. So all that to say, I'm going to go through that. Now keep in mind that the focus of the Natural Solutions handout is the Natural Solutions Kit. Why I tell people the Natural Solutions Kit is one of my favorites, because it's kind of like you go to Starbucks or McDonald's or the juice bar, which would be more appropriate to many of the people in this group, and there's a small, medium, and large. Often, if there's a medium option, people will gravitate towards the medium because they're not spending the least amount of money, but they're not spending the most amount of money. So the Natural Solutions Kit feels middle of the road for a lot of people. And so the way I explain it is say, I really love the Natural Solutions Kit, Goldilocks theory. Yes, absolutely, Kimberly. I really like the Natural Solutions Kit as the middle of the road option because it gives you the best of everything without buying every single thing that doTERRA puts out. I love that it gets people the Lifelong Vitality supplement, which so many people have good results with. I love the Terrazyme. I love the CorrectX, and I'll just highlight a few products in there. But keep in mind that the all throughout I've been saying Natural Solutions. Now, I want to give you a little hint about Natural Solutions. If they get Natural Solutions Kit and they place 100 LRP the next month, they get 100 points in their account. So if they've signed up during New Year, New You, that's $200 that they've gotten in their account. But you also start out at 15% in your loyalty rewards. So if you're familiar with loyalty rewards, if you're not, talk to the person who signed you up. But loyalty rewards is your monthly order. You start out by getting 10% back, and it takes you 3 months to earn your way to get to 15%. If you start out with a Natural Solutions Kit, you start out at 15%. So that's a nice kit. And then I go over Home Essentials Kit and Family Physician Kit. Just keep in mind that you want to give people permission to choose what's best for them. Find a way to explain it that feels comfortable for you in a way that opens the door for people to make their own choice. Practice on somebody. So in finishing up the presentation section, before you have your first 4 launch classes, if you're following the launch protocol necessarily, following launch protocol either now or in the future, practice. I remember when I was in ministry before. I've had several careers. One was in ministry, and I had to raise support for some of what I was doing. So I called a few friends of mine who I felt like I could just bomb the presentation on. And I said, hey, can I come tell you what I'm doing and just practice my presentation? And you can tell me if it's any good or not. Because I was nervous. I was so nervous. So I picked somebody that I felt comfortable looking like a total idiot in front of. And I was excited about it, but I just didn't know how I was going to make it all work. And I just practiced on them. So before you have your first event, I encourage you to find somebody that loves you, that will still love you and say encouraging things to you, even if you make a royal disaster, and practice on them. Just read the script. If you're not sure what to do, if you get lost, pull out your launch guide and read it out loud. Have a backup plan. So if you're teaching a class by yourself for the first time, have the DVD queued up in the background. If you just get totally lost, that you can push the play button. If you feel overwhelmed for some reason and you don't know what to do, and you don't know how to close, and I won't name any names, but there's a dear friend of mine on this call, and we were talking, and we're like, I wrote it all down, and then I got in the moment, and I just froze, and I couldn't remember what to do. That happens to everybody. So that's totally fine. Be prepared for that if that happens when you're getting used to teaching classes. That if you need to just pull out the script and read it, read it. If you need to push play on the DVD and recollect your thoughts, do that. That's totally fine. Elizabeth says, GoPro talks about that being a strategy, asking to practice on someone you are actually interested in enrolling or asking to build. Great point, Elizabeth. So those people that I practiced on did actually end up supporting me when I did campus ministry. I did want them to support me, but I knew that if I blew it, that they were going to be okay. So I'm really glad you reminded me about that. Thank you, Elizabeth. And then lastly, Jenny, if you could give people 1 or 2 pointers on teaching a class online. We're going to have a whole bit on that, but she's done several of those. And so I'd love to, for you to share a few pointers.
All right. You love me now that I'm in my robe and in the bed. So, well, I have done, I've done 2 Zoom classes last week, and one was awesome and one was a total disaster. Anna was on the call. Well, she's saying it wasn't a disaster, but compared to the first one, it was not as successful. And I think really what I've been going over in my head, why that was, and I think it's because I didn't know the person. I'd never met her in my life, and I hadn't made a connection with her. Yeah. I really truly think that's what it was. But the way I did it is I sent for both classes, I sent the oil blend sample pack to each of them, and I either sent them directly to the person or I had the hostess deliver. And then I also sent a
You're talking about these?
Yeah.
Everybody have these? They're little tiny perfume bottle samples.
They're awesome. I love them. I actually also sent them a little teeny vial of our peppermint, maybe 5 drops, and a teeny tiny vial of the bad peppermint that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, that's fine.
I did that for the first class, which was great. But then I also sent them just a sheet. My wording is off right now. Just the list of all the products, and then a wellness agreement or a customer agreement. And I made a PowerPoint so that I could just go through that with them. And the one that was very successful, everybody was just interacting. It was great. People were stopping me and asking questions, and it was awesome. And I really do think that's because I knew the hostess really well from college, and I knew she was really into it. And so she kind of got everybody going. Yeah. So it was very good. It was very good. And then I've done a lot of my wellness consults on Zoom. It saved my life because I just don't have much time. Yeah. And it's so much easier to just say, hey, I'm free now. Do you have 20 or 30 minutes? Yep. It's great. I love it.
Absolutely. And we will do a whole session on wellness consults. So that's fabulous. And I heard that your PowerPoint was amazing, by the way.
Yeah. If anybody wants it, if you want to send me an email or whatnot, it's not fancy, but it's one less thing that y'all have to do. So just let me know.
The other thing that you can do is you can go to Share Success and share the screen with the Natural Solutions handout. So what I have done before is I go to sharesuccess.com. If I'm on Zoom, oh, it's not going to go there. Okay, well, the handout is there. The handout is on sharesuccess.com, the Natural Solutions handout, and I'll just walk them through it. Real simple. Okay, here as we close, If you have never done a class by yourself, your assignment is to find somebody to practice a presentation on. Read the script if you need to read the script. Show the video. Well, you can't practice by showing the video. You can have the videos back up, but watch the video. The video is on sharesuccess.com, and I love it because it's broken up into a bunch of different sections. So you don't have to just like fast forward or watch this little bit or watch this little bit. You can pick which section you choose to watch. So if you haven't watched that, I would encourage you to watch that. For your homework assignment for the Elite to Launch to Elite is to practice on at least one person between now and next Monday. It can be anybody you want. It's somebody that is going to encourage you, somebody that you feel comfortable making a mess in front of, and it very well may be, like Elizabeth shared, somebody that you would love to build with you. I told you I was in another direct sales company for a while, and the lady who was like the national vice president, whatever something, did a presentation, and she got up in front of everybody and she talked for a while, and she said, if you're watching me do this and you think I could do better than that, then I'm doing a great job, because you can do what I'm doing and you can do better than that. Mm-hmm. So having just a real simple presentation that feels duplicable is amazing. I tell people so often that if you feel like you don't know anything, you'll probably do better than sometimes the people who feel like they know everything. Because if you can watch me and be like, I could do that, then I'm doing a great job. So we will continue to talk more about how to do things online here and there. It's a great way to add on to your business with what you're doing. But thank you so much for coming. I would love to have your feedback on when I post the recording on Essential Health. If you would take a moment and give me one thing that stuck out to you about this class, that would be very helpful for me, and also hopefully it will be helpful for your team as well. So I will post this class. It takes like an hour and a half to actually get it on my computer and then get it onto YouTube. But I will post it on Essential Health, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday at 8:30. Have a good night.